You know what else I'm tired of? More than anything, I'm tired of the Trump administration. Here's Dr. Oz. Trump administration rolls out rural health funding with strings attached. Don't worry, we will fund your health. But states will share a $10 billion fund for rural health care next year in a program that aims to offset the Trump administration's massive budget cuts to rural hospitals. But while every state applied for money from the Rural Health Transformation Program, it won't be distributed equally, and critics worry that the funding might be pulled back if a state's policies don't match up with the administration's. Officials said the average award for 2026 is $200 million, and the fund puts a total of $50 billion into rural health programs over 5 years. States propose how to spend their awards, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services assigned project officers to support each state, said the administrator, Dr. Mehmet Oz. He said, "This fund was crafted as part of the one big, beautiful bill signed only 6 months ago, now into law, in order to push states to be creative." To push states to be creative. I'm going to tell you right now, the last fucking thing I want any doctor to do with my healthcare is to be creative. That is the last thing I want. Under the program, half the money is equally distributed to each state. The other half is allocated based on a formula developed by CMS that considered rural population size, the financial state of the state's medical facilities, and health outcomes for the state's population. And the ambassador, let's get creative! Green is not creative healthcare. The formula also ties $12 billion of the 5-year funding to whether states are implementing health policies prioritized by the Trump administration's Make America Healthy Again initiative. Examples include requiring nutrition education for healthcare providers, having schools participate in the presidential fitness test, or banning the use of SNAP benefits for so-called junk food. Ah yes, the only way that you will receive the state funding you require to function is if you are willing to impose draconian limitations on how people consume food. You know what's funny about junk food? It tends to last for fucking ever before it goes stale. It tends to also be food that you can get on the cheap. For every person that points out that lettuce and fruit and stuff can be gotten cheap as well, I pressure you to see lettuce lasting as long as fucking ramen noodles. But don't worry. The state says you can't have the one that's guaranteed to last longer for you, just in case you find yourself in financial straits. Hey, fun fact. You know a thing that I used to do? I used to have, and did anybody else have this, an emergency food drawer. Or at least an emergency food stash somewhere. And the purpose of the stash is to only have foods that last years. 5, 6, 7 years. We're talking like ramen noodles, Pop-Tarts, shit like that. Stuff that's not good for you, but it's high in calories, so it gives you the ability to function if you do not have food readily available like you normally would, if you're food scarce, if you're in a position where you simply did not make enough money that week, and so you're not able to go to the grocery store. A habit I have had for years has been to have an emergency food stash. That way, if anything were to happen, if I were not able to survive and not able to take care of myself food-wise, I would have a stash of food, and usually, like I said, it's ramen noodles and shit, just in case. And every now and again, I've had to fall back on that shit. But a lot of those foods are not healthy. They're not designed to be healthy. They're designed to get you going, or in some cases, to be addictive. High salt content can do that. Little Firecat says, me here buying frozen vegetables because they last as long as needed. Look, I had an argument with a couple friends of mine when I pointed out that I use canned vegetables in a lot of my recipes. And I just get like, ew, I can't do that. And I'm just like, do you guys understand that canned veggies last years and fresh veggies last nope? Yes, one of these things doesn't taste as good as the other, and yes, one of these things definitely does not. It definitely does not last longer. It does not taste as good. The texture is not as good, but it lasts longer, and it's there when I need it. That mattered way more to me than getting the food that tasted the best, because I couldn't fucking afford the food that tasted the best. Hell, do you know what vegetable I buy more than any fresh now? Red cabbage. You know why I buy red cabbage? Because red cabbage takes so long to go bad in the fridge, it's kind of crazy. You kind of feel like the cabbage is its own bacteria farm because it's not going bad. So, like, something else has to be going on there. They've got to be on fucking vacation or some shit. But no, it just doesn't go bad at the same rate as lettuce, carrots, and everything else. Typically, if I'm buying veggies, I am getting garlic, onions, and I'm getting red cabbage, because those are the veggies that last the longest in my fridge. Now, I try to have lettuce available as well, but I don't have it readily available as often because it fucking can go bad. Hey, Charles says, I got no problem with canned veggies, but I live with people that think the only way to cook veggies is to boil them for multiple hours and won't listen to anyone. Canned veggies are already cooked. Varen says, don't forget potatoes and squash, as they can last a while too. I don't do squash because I just don't know many recipes with it. Potatoes I do, though. Potatoes I do. Fucking, if you end up... I'm just gonna say this right now. If you boil canned vegetables, die. Like, no, you should not be near food. You should not be near food. You just should not be cooking. I'm sorry. Like, that skill is officially past you. You cannot learn it. You have demonstrated a lack of ability through malicious compliance and weaponized incompetence. There are things canned veggies are great in. They're great in stews. They're great in pies. They are not great in most other fucking things. Anyway, several Republican-led states, including Arkansas, Iowa, Louisiana, and Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas, have already adopted rules banning the purchase of foods like candy and soda with SNAP benefits. Yeah, fuck you if you wanted to get something to take off the edge from the fucking candy aisle. Fuck you, I guess. Axis says, what if I boil them in the can? The can explodes. I'm not kidding. Heat up a can, it explodes. Anyway, the money that the states get will be recalculated annually, Oz said, allowing the administration to claw back funds if, for example, state leaders don't pass promised policies. Oz says the clawbacks are not punishments, but leverage. That's not a punishment, it's leverage. Fuck off. Fuck off. I've already heard governors express the sentiment that this is not a threat, that this is actually an empowering element of the one big beautiful bill. Yeah, were they Republican senators? Because that sounds like Republican senators, and I don't care, or Republican governors, and I don't care about their opinions. Kerry Cochran McCain, I say that, but like, also... slight call to action. If you haven't already considered subscribing, I try generally to be fair when I'm doing this, but like sometimes there's areas where my disdain pokes through. I'm sorry. Yeah, empowering for fucking who? I'm sorry, but maybe consider subscribing to my channel. I can't give you a good pitch for that. I've already ruined it. I can't say I'm fair and even-handed in this episode, because I'm definitely not being that right now. I'm being incredibly judgmental with pure prejudice. I view this the same way I view AI girlfriends. Extreme prejudice. Tara, how bad can I be? I'm just revoking your integrity. How bad can I be? It's only a little food scarcity. Experts say the fund is inadequate in face of other cuts. Oz and other federal officials have touted the program as a 50% increase in Medicaid investments in rural care. Representative Don Bacon, a Republican from Nebraska who's been critical of many of the admin's policies, but voted for the budget bill that slashed Medicaid, pointed to the fund when recently questioned about how the cuts would hurt rural hospitals. He said, "That's why we added a $50 billion rural hospital fund to help any hospitals that are struggling. This money is to help keep hospitals afloat." But experts say it won't nearly offset the losses that struggling rural hospitals will face from the federal spending law's $1.2 trillion cut from the federal budget over the next decade. So let me get this straight. You're giving these people $50 billion, but you're cutting away $1.2 trillion. What the hell? What the hell? Estimates suggest rural hospitals could lose around $137 billion over the next decade. $137 billion. Asita Salon, thank you for resubscribing. But $137 billion in losses in the face of being given $10 billion. Yeah, that is a 90% reduction, 95 in some cases, towards your hospital's budgets. As many as 300 rural hospitals were at risk for closure because of the GOP's spending package, according to an analysis by the Cecil G. Shep Center for Health Services and Research at the University of North Carolina. When you put that up against the $50 billion for the rural health transformation, the math does not add up. She also said that there is no guarantee the funding will go to the rural hospitals in need. For example, one state's application included a proposal for healthier, locally sourced school lunch options in rural areas, and even though innovation is a goal for the program, Cochran McLean said it's tough for rural hospitals to innovate when they're struggling to break even before Congress's Medicaid cuts. They said, "We talk to rural providers every day that say I'd really love to do X, Y, or Z, but I'm concerned about, meeting payroll at the end of the month." So when you're in that kind of crisis mode, I'd argue it's almost impossible to do true innovation. Yeah, no, fuck this. Fuck this whole thing. It's wild to me that the Trump administration does this and Republicans vote for it and they don't bat a fucking eye. They're just like, yeah, the math checks out. But here's the thing. I want to leave you with a quote that I think is very, very important right now. And that is that the purpose of a system is what it does. You can't say that something is broken, something is fucked up, if the system is doing what it was intended to do from the first place. Gutting funding from hospitals, making Americans' lifespan shorter, hurting us in general, all in the gross jump on profit, all for the attempt to gain more dollars, even at the risk of losing Americans' lives and livelihoods and health. That is the purpose of the system. We are the ants on the chopping block, and the Trump administration 100% does not give a shit about you, I, nor our families, and instead wants to enrich their donor base and therefore themselves. The purpose of a system is what it does. If the outcome of a system is hospitals closing, then that was the purpose all along. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitt, I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.